Hiroshima vanishes in seconds. One heartbeat, there's a city of 350,000 people. The next, silence. But in Tokyo, Japanese high command refuses to believe it. One general calls it impossible physics. Another is convinced the Americans are bluffing with some exaggerated version of regular bombs. A third man, sitting quietly at the table, realizes the awful truth, and what he understands will change everything. Because when Tokyo finally grasps what really happened, their response won't be what anyone expects. The words spoken in that room will decide the fate of millions. But first, they have to accept something unthinkable: that a city can simply be gone. August 6th, 1945. Morning. Hiroshima goes silent. Not just quiet, erased from the map of sound and signal. In Tokyo, Japanese high command sits under dim lights, surrounded by maps and smoking ashtrays. A clerk rushes in with the first report. Something has happened to Hiroshima, but nobody knows what. Phone lines are dead. Radio stations have stopped broadcasting mid-sentence. Military bases in and around the city give no reply. General Anami lifts one of the reports. He reads slowly. His face is stone, but his fingers tremble just enough for the aide beside him to notice. One word repeats again and again from different witnesses: flash. A blinding white flash that tore across the sky, and then nothing. Some reports insist the entire city is burning. Others claim there's no city left at all. The contradictions make it easier to deny. If the stories don't match, maybe none of them are true. The generals gather in the war room. Maps cover every wall. Pins marking factories, military headquarters, ammunition depots. Hiroshima should be one of those points of strength, a living, breathing fortress of soldiers, industry, and civilians. Now, on the communication board, it's just a dead black space. General Kawabe, head of intelligence, breaks the silence first. He clears his throat, eyes on the folders in front of him. He tells them the Americans might have used a new kind of bomb, something unlike anything Japan has seen before. But he doesn't name it yet. He doesn't dare. The others immediately demand details. How big? How many planes? What kind of damage? Kawabe gives the answer that freezes the room. One plane, one bomb, one city. For a long moment, nobody speaks. You can't destroy a whole city with one bomb. That's not war. That's myth. That's the kind of power humans aren't supposed to have. General Anami slams his fist on the table, shattering the silence. American propaganda, he snaps. They're trying to scare us into surrender. But outside that room, reality is already changing. The war room feels smaller now. Smoke hangs in the air, thick and unmoving, as if even it refuses to leave. Maps stare back at the generals like accusations. Hiroshima should be alive, full of traffic, factories, school children, soldiers marching in formation. Instead, every attempt to reach it collapses into dead air. Still, General Anami clings to his belief that this is a trick, an illusion engineered by Americans to break Japanese resolve. But then another report arrives. This one is different. This one comes from a man who actually saw Hiroshima after the flash. A pilot. He flew over the city 3 hours after the blast. The envelope is placed on the table with unusual care, as though it's dangerous just to read. The pilot's handwriting crawls across the page, shaky and uneven, as if his hand couldn't decide whether to write or to drop the pen and run. He describes a cloud, not a normal cloud that drifts and fades. A towering column, mushroom-shaped, rising 40,000 feet into the sky. It doesn't float, it looms, like something alive. Below that monstrous cloud, Hiroshima is gone. Where the city was supposed to be, he notes only a crater of ruin smoke, boiling upward, fire spreading in slow circles outward, as if the ground itself is burning. Buildings flattened, No identifiable streets, no landmarks, nothing recognizable. He writes that he could see the destruction from more than 150 miles away. The smoke, the glow, like the sun had fallen to earth and decided to stay. The room grows quieter with each sentence. Someone shifts in their chair. Someone else exhales sharply. General Toyoshiro, one of the few in the room who truly understands nuclear theory, reads the report once, then again, then a third time, lips pressed into a thin line. He knows about Japan's own atomic research, small, underfunded, incomplete, but he knows enough. The blinding flash, the mushroom cloud, the instant annihilation. It matches the calculations on chalkboards that were never meant to become reality. He doesn't finish his thought out loud, but everyone can see it on his face. If America built an atomic bomb first, everything changes, every strategy, every plan to bleed the enemy on the beaches, every fantasy of a glorious last stand. Still, Anami refuses to yield. He leans forward, eyes hard, voice sharp with anger. Rumors and fear, he insists. We will not surrender because of a cloud in the sky. He orders a team to go to Hiroshima immediately, to see it with their own eyes. The investigation team boards a train bound for a city that may no longer exist. As the train rattles toward Hiroshima, none of them know that they're not traveling to a city under attack. They are traveling to the aftermath of something the world has never seen before. A place where a single flash has rewritten the rules of war. The investigation team expects destruction. They've seen firebombed cities before, charred neighborhoods, shattered glass, twisted metal, war-torn landscapes are no surprise to them. But as their train approaches Hiroshima, something feels wrong. There are no smoke columns on the horizon, no distant echoes of chaos, no flickering fires in the distance. Just an eerie, endless emptiness. 30 miles from Hiroshima, the train shudders and grinds to a halt. The conductor steps down, walks ahead, and doesn't come back for a long time. When he does, his face is pale. The tracks ahead are warped, twisted, in some places melted into shiny, useless ribbons. The rails don't look bombed. They look like they were softened, and then bent by some colossal, invisible hand. The team disembarks and continues on foot. It's quiet, too quiet. No refugees, no fleeing crowds, no columns of wounded soldiers. Just a strange, windless silence and a faint smell on the air. Burnt metal, ash, and something else they don't want to identify. They climb a hill overlooking the valley where Hiroshima should be. One officer, breathing hard, raises a pair of binoculars. This is the moment where they expect to see a broken city, a wounded city, but still a city. Instead, he sees nothing that makes sense. The downtown is gone. Not damaged, gone. Buildings are reduced to foundations or less, as if some colossal weight pressed down on the city and crushed it flat. Bridges are snapped and collapsed, their remains dangling into rivers that now carry not just water, but bodies. Trees are stripped, shadows burned into walls that no longer stand. Fires still crawl across the ruins, slow and relentless. The officer's hands begin to shake. The binoculars almost slip from his grip. He forces himself to keep looking, to confirm every horrifying detail. When he finally lowers the lenses, the other men stare at him, waiting. "What do you see?" one of them asks. He swallows, his voice barely more than breath. "There is no Hiroshima." They send a radio message back to Tokyo. 4 words. Simple, final. The city is gone. In Tokyo, General Anami receives the message. He stares at it, jaw clenched, then crumples the paper in his fist. Denial is getting harder to hold on to, but he clings to it like a shield. Then, the scientists arrive. Tokyo's top nuclear physicist, Yoshio Nishina, steps into the war room with a stack of reports. He has been quietly reviewing every detail. The flash, the mushroom cloud, the total destruction, the strange burns survivors describe. When he speaks, his voice is calm, almost clinical. No emotion, just facts. This, Nishina says, was an atomic bomb. There is no doubt in his mind. And suddenly, the generals feel the floor of their reality starting to give way. The word atomic hangs in the air like a curse. Some of the generals stare at Nishina as if he's speaking another language. Others understand enough to feel a cold weight in their stomach. He explains the basics: splitting atoms, chain reactions, energy equal to 15,000 tons of TNT unleashed in a single instant. One bomb, one city. There is no anti-aircraft gun, no fighter squadron, no miracle tactic that can stop that kind of power once it's released. General Kawabe asks the question everyone dreads. How many of these bombs do they have? Nishina shakes his head. I don't know, but if they have built one, they can build more. The implications sink in slowly. If America has more atomic bombs, Tokyo, Osaka, Kyoto, every major city in Japan could be turned into another Hiroshima. There is no defense, no second chance. For a moment, there's a strange, fragile opening in the room, an unspoken thought that maybe, just maybe, this is the point where the war must end. Then, General Anami speaks. We continue fighting. The words land like another explosion. Some generals lift their heads in disbelief. Others search his face for sarcasm and find none. He is completely serious. Anami explains himself. Yes, the bomb is terrible. Yes, it is beyond anything they imagined. But to him, Japan's honor matters more than Japan's survival. Surrender means shame. It means occupation. It means the emperor's divine status shattered in front of the world. To Anami, dying in battle is acceptable. Living in disgrace is not. Half the room nods, moved by old ideals of Bushido, by decades of training that taught them that death is honorable and defeat is worse than annihilation. The other half stays silent. Their minds drift to their wives, their children, the crowded cities full of people who have never held a rifle. Are they really willing to let those people become fuel for more mushroom clouds? The debate grows heated. Voices rise. Some insist Japan can still force a negotiated peace by inflicting heavy casualties on any invading force. Others say such hopes died in the white flash over Hiroshima. Then, 3 days later, all arguments turn to ash. August 9th, 1945. Another city vanishes. Nagasaki. Another blinding flash. Another mushroom cloud. Another 40,000 people dead in seconds. This time, there's no room for doubts, no accusations of propaganda. America isn't bluffing. They have multiple bombs and they are willing to use them. The war room falls into a heavy, haunted silence. Strategies feel meaningless. Maps look like lists of potential graveyards. As the generals struggle to comprehend this new reality, one figure stands above them all, silent until now. The emperor is about to speak. August 10th, 1945. For days, the war room has been filled with shouting arguments about honor, invasion, desperate counterattacks that exist only on paper. But now, as word spreads that the emperor himself will speak, the room falls into a silence deeper than any bomb crater. In Japanese history, emperors do not step into military debates. Their presence is sacred, distant, almost untouchable. Yet today, Emperor Hirohito's voice will cut directly into the heart of war. The generals stand as he enters. The air changes. For them, this is more than a man walking into a room. This is the living symbol of Japan, the divine center of their world. Some avoid eye contact. Others stare at the floor, as if afraid that meeting his gaze will reveal their doubt. Hirohito listens first. He hears the arguments laid out once more. Fight on, seek better terms, prepare the homeland for a final, bloody stand. Hiroshima and Nagasaki hover like ghosts over every sentence. He does not raise his voice. He does not pound the table. When he finally speaks, his words are quiet and absolute. We must bear the unbearable. The sentence is simple, but it crashes through the room like a shockwave. In that moment, every man present understands what it means. To bear the unbearable is to accept the one thing they have spent years vowing never to accept: surrender. For Hirohito, this is not about fear of the bomb for himself. It's about what remains of Japan. He explains that continuing the war will only mean the total extinction of the nation, its cities burned, its culture erased, its people annihilated by a weapon beyond human comprehension. Surrender, he says, is not cowardice. It is responsibility. A duty to protect those who are still alive. To save what can be saved. The room shifts. Old loyalties and ideas grind against reality. Some generals feel their chests tighten. How do you argue with a man believed to be divine? How do you insist on national suicide when your own emperor tells you to choose life? General Anami bows his head. Outwardly, he accepts the emperor's decision. Inwardly, he is torn apart. His entire life has been built around the belief that Japan must never surrender, yet the emperor has spoken. That ends the debate. Anami speaks one last time in that room. He says the military did not lose in the traditional sense. Japan was not simply outmaneuvered or outfought. They were defeated by a weapon that threatens the very existence of humanity. A weapon beyond human morality. The next day, August 11th, Japan sends a message to the United States. They will surrender with one condition: the emperor must remain. The spiritual core of Japan cannot be removed. America agrees. Just like that, on paper, the greatest war in human history moves toward its end. But in the hearts of men like Anami, the war is not over. Not yet. August 14th, 1945, night. The war is effectively over, but Tokyo feels strangely weightless, as if the city itself isn't sure what it is, without the sound of distant guns. In his office, General Anami sits alone under a dim lamp. The maps on his walls, once crowded with arrows, units, and plans, now look like relics from another world. The decision has been made. Japan will surrender. The emperor has spoken. The world has changed. On his desk lies a blank sheet of paper. Anami picks up his brush and begins to write. This time, his handwriting is steady. No trace of the earlier trembling. He addresses the emperor, apologizing for failing to win, for failing to protect Japan, for surviving when so many soldiers and civilians have died. Each character carries the weight of a lifetime spent, believing that death is preferable to defeat. He does not blame Hiroshima or Nagasaki. He does not blame the emperor. He takes the blame upon himself. In his mind, a general does not live to see surrender. When the letter is finished, he sets it aside carefully. Then, Anami prepares for seppuku ritual suicide, the samurai way. It is an act drawn from an older Japan, a Japan of swords and castles, now colliding with an age of mushroom clouds and invisible radiation. As he performs the ritual, he chooses to die as he believes a warrior should, rather than live in a world defined by defeat and atomic fire. His death sends shockwaves through the military. To some, it is an honorable exit. To others, it is proof that the Japan they knew is dying with him. The empire that marched toward conquest now bows its head to survive. Anami's blood marks the end of an era. 6 days later, on August 20th, Japanese High Command records their final statement about Hiroshima. In official language, they describe the weapon that erased the city as something beyond human morality, a thing that should not exist yet does. From that first blinding flash over Hiroshima to the emperor's words and Anami's final act, Japanese leaders come to a grim realization. They haven't just lost a war. They have watched the opening of a door that can never be closed. Warfare, politics, the future of humanity, all of it has been rewritten by a single bomb. One flash, one city, one decision that forced an empire to surrender and showed the world that from now on, one weapon could end millions of lives, or even the world itself. The Japanese High Command's reaction to Hiroshima didn't just end a conflict. It marked the beginning of a new age, an age where every leader knows that in the space of a heartbeat, everything can disappear.